Fife Flyers TV, sponsored by the Bay Hotel, Fife's premier wedding venue.
Todd, thank you very much, first of all, for joining us today. It's been a long time, and we're back in the Fife Flyers at the weekend. Great to have the fans back, but getting down to business. Season's coming in quickly. I mean, what was your assessment of the pre-season games at the weekend?
Well, we didn't have very high expectations, as far as the outcome of the weekend. We were just grateful that A, hockey was back on, B, we were having fans back into the building, and C, some of our players had 18 months without a competitive match. So it was a great opportunity to knock some of the rust off and get to know one another. I think certainly on the Friday night up in Dundee, it was quite telling that guys had only gotten in a day or two before that match. They rebounded nicely. I thought they put in quite a spirited effort on the Saturday night and gave that wonderful home crowd something to cheer about. It's been a long time coming, and I know that certainly from speaking to people around the town, they enjoyed it, and just happy to see hockey back in Fife.
Absolutely. I think we touched a bit on it at the weekend, but on this the first game against Dundee up in Dundee, I think some of the guys who have came in, they're new to the league, I think they got a bit of a shock in terms of what the level's like.
Yeah, I think it was probably more how hotly contested the rivalry is going to be between the clubs, and it'll be another eye opener when Glasgow are up and running. Coming over to Europe for these young kids, it is a new experience, and sometimes not a lot is known about the British Elite League. But they soon found that out quickly. Dundee came out very, very hot and ready to go. But as I said, I thought they composed themselves and adjusted accordingly. Even in the third period up at Dundee, I thought we were starting to find our legs. So, and that being 3 import short down, it was a decent weekend as far as result goes.
Has this been one of the most trickiest off seasons for you in terms of recruitment?
I suppose in a couple ways. As many people probably know, we work on incredibly tight deadlines here. By the time we get the nod to begin recruiting, it's generally pretty late. I think put it on the back of a pandemic after the organization had a complete shutdown. Begin that late, 7 or 8 weeks before the season, and then getting back into it after 18 months. It was very difficult, and going from nothing to 100 miles an hour was a bit of a smack in the face, but you adjust quickly and get used to it, and it was quite enjoyable. Certainly after that extended time off, once again talking to players, agents, and old players, and just catching up with everybody in general.
I mean, obviously looking at the roster, there's a lot of new guys coming in for this season. Is there a reason behind that? There's
probably a number of reasons for that. One, after the disappointment of the previous season, I think it was imperative that things were freshened up a bit. Also on the back of the pandemic, we had a number of retirees. There's always that. And then, guys after 18 months, there's that little bubble where maybe a guy wasn't ready to shut it down, but ended up finding a job and realizing that he didn't miss the game as much. So it went into early retirement. These things happen. And as I've always said, Fife Flyers fans are very loyal, and when they accept a player here, they accept them with open arms and really, protect that player and make them their own. Sometimes they have a hard time having to move on. But as time and history has always repeated itself, a fresh bunch always comes in, eager to please, and once again, I'm sure that there's more than a handful of players in this dressing room that that are going to become fan favorites, and people will be wanting to protect for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of younger guys as well coming straight out of college hockey. Is that a difference we'll probably see? Some of these guys have got that hunger of youth about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great attribute. I've enjoyed recruitment talks with the kids. I've enjoyed getting to know them better, and at early stages on, they're going to be a lot of fun to work with. Sometimes you're forced to go where the market leads you, and that kind of goes on to the previous, or your earlier question about the types of guys that were available. There were a lot of guys, and we've had older guys in the club before that may be a year or two away from retirement, but as a result of the highly volatile situation that sport has found itself in, I think maybe guys were a little gun shy or maybe a little worried and thought they needed a little something more stable and ended up getting jobs. I'm not saying we were forced younger. It certainly made us explore other avenues, and we I think we came across some absolute gems, and we're pretty excited about the prospect of competing well this season.
Does it give you a sort of renewed hunger as well? You can kind of a chance for you to develop these younger players as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that develop them in the sense of the pro game. They come out of college and they're so well drilled, but just like young pros, they're probably used to playing specific roles where I need to open up the area of the game where they're going to be relied on in all situations. So instead of being a specialist, these guys are going to have to round their game, and I think this is a great place to do it. We've seen a lot of players come here, maybe not with the best statistics before, but given the opportunity, they've gone out there and become perennial 20-plus goal scorers. We certainly have the capability of a number of players that in this dressing room.
Looking around the league, and particularly ourselves, Dundee, Glasgow, look like they're kind of in the same situation of a lot of new guys coming in. So, how important is it for that kind of new bunch of players to gel really quickly? And is that maybe actually going to be the key in terms of Scottish teams this year? Is how quickly they can gel and get down on the ice together?
I think that's really important on any year, but because the league, the town, and everything is new. It really does drive these guys together. If you've had some guys here, if half the team had been here for 5 years, yes, they can provide some guidance, but they're really in their own situation. Probably a lot of people in town here have seen these guys walking about. I'm told Canadians and North Americans stick out like a sore thumb here. I don't really see it, but that's probably because I've stuck out like a sore thumb for a lot of years. But in all seriousness, they're exploring the town together, they're learning to drive together, they're getting everything set up all together. So I think it'll certainly help in the gelling process. And you know what, without an extended preseason like we normally have, they're kind of thrown into the deep end this weekend. They go up against a team that has a good strong nucleus returning, as well as a team that's always near or at the top of the league standings. So very difficult challenge ahead of them, but the guys are excited and raring to go.
I was just looking again at some of the other teams as well. They seem to have brought in a lot of physical presence to some of the teams. Is that something you may be concerned that we're going to be missing coming into the season?
Yeah, it's certainly something that I think people think that I get a resume of one of these players in my inbox and I crumple it up and throw it in the garbage. That's certainly not the case. It's something that has become a commodity and something that we've certainly thrown our hat in the ring a number of times, and for whatever reason it hasn't worked out. I think it is going to play a factor this year, especially since the rule change where suspensions no longer affect the club. They're just directed at a player. I think that personally for me, I think there could be, that rule could be exploited, and I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong, and I don't think that that's something that an area that we should be going down, although I do see the need for size in our lineup, and it's something that we will continually try and rectify, and if the right player comes along, we won't hesitate in making that change.
I just kind of want to talk about the season ahead as well, and we're still dealing with the pandemic at the minute. Does that change how you guys train and prepare for games in the end?
Well, I think a little bit. I mean, I think we have to be careful. There was a lot of traffic that we probably didn't notice before, in and out before games and during training sessions. We're training at different times now. The rink's quiet. There's no traffic in the rink. So we are that bubble is pretty protected. Although it's a multi-use facility, we are here at times when, it's very quiet. During games, the league's taken measures to certainly protect us and limit the traffic. So, you can't help it when people are out in the community. People are entitled to lives, but they also know that, if any of us bring it into the dressing room, we could be looking at a depleted squad, or certainly a little bit of a shutdown, and that's something that nobody wants. And but we have been living with it for an extended period of time now. You'd like to think that everybody in our change room's taken the necessary precautions to stay safe. Keeping them in a completely sealed bubble, I think, is completely unrealistic. They're not making hundreds of thousands of pounds like football players and such. These guys do need to have a life and get out and about and live their lives a little bit. But, we've certainly talked about just being careful and like anybody would in their day-to-day lives.
I mean, God forbid, of course, and touch all the wood in this changing room, if you guys were to get a positive test within the players, yourselves, or anybody else in the team, what's the process that you go through there?
Well, obviously, we have lateral flow tests that can be done, on a basis that's required. And then if, like you said, if somebody had happened to test positive for that, they would have to go into isolation, and we would have to continue to lateral flow and monitor the situation closely, because they are in close quarters in here. We do spend a lot of time on the bus together. We have guys living together. The last thing we would want is that to go through the team and affect us for weeks on end.
Is there a process in place for the club in terms of isolation, or are you completely in the hands of the public health officials at that point if it were to happen?
To be completely honest, we've been in such a rush to get everybody in and such. Everybody's catching their breath now. We're settling in here probably this next coming week. We'll get our induction with the guys, and then it's important to have that protocol laid out. But the isolation period can be done in any of the places. We have extra bedrooms where a guy who tests negative can go, just to keep them separate. And that's something that really looks like most teams will have to face at some point during the year. It just doesn't seem viable that we're not going to be, but we're going to be careful and just try and keep on top of it as best we can.
Moving out of COVID world, what is your expectations for the guys this year?
First and foremost, for me, it was to get a team on the ice and get hockey played in this building again. That was the basic motivation. Now that we've accomplished that and got a nice group of guys together that look like they're hungry and competitive. Same deal as before in previous years. It's to compete night in, night out. Pick up points every single weekend, and that's going to find you in good stead in this league. But that being said, I'm under no illusion that this is a tough schedule every week. There's really good teams in this league. They just seem to be getting better and better each year. So we have to earn it, and we didn't like the situation we were in before. And if it's not happening, then we have to rectify it early rather than sitting on our hands and hoping something changes. I've certainly made that known to the directors, and they're on board. So, we want to be back where we belong, which is up competing with every team in this league on a nightly basis, and propel ourselves up the table where, with the exception of last year and the first year in the Elite League, we found ourselves in varying degrees, and I was a lot more comfortable in that position than I was last year.
Well, thank you, Todd.
Thank you very much.
And good luck.
Thank you.